The purpose of this video is to demonstrate how to synchronize carburetors and timing on a Chrysler or Force 3, 4, or 5-cylinder engine. Now this particular engine has got a couple of parts missing and whatnot, and I'm using it only for demonstration because it's not ready to go on the boat. However, any Chrysler or Force engine will not run correctly unless the carburetors and the timing are synchronized, so the carburetors open open correctly for the amount of timing advance. Now, you cannot know where you're going unless you know where you are to start. So the first thing you need to do on these engines is set everything back to a reference point. And the first thing we'll do is we'll start with the carburetors. Now, to adjust the cam and the carburetors, the first thing we do is remove this ball link from the timing tower. We remove it here at the timing tower, not at the cam, because we're liable to bend the cam. So we'll move that. Okay, now we'll move the cam back out of the way. Now, the 3 carburetors are linked with this tie bar. You loosen these 2 screws and let the 3 butterflies snap closed completely. Then you retighten these 2 screws. Now you can see at this point the carburetors are completely closed. Now we need to adjust the cam to the carburetor roller. And what we do is we push the cam forward, and you can see this one, which has already been adjusted, is correct. The mark or line on the cam is tangent to the roller. This roller is on a cam screw, or an eccentric screw, I'm sorry. So you loosen this nut and turn this screw until the roller just contacts the cam tangentially. Again, this has already been done, so it's correct. Now I will reattach the ball link. Okay. Now we need to check that the carburetors are opening fully. So what we do, we have to put it in gear so that it will turn. And this particular one has a lower unit with the with the rubber bellows, so it doesn't want to stay in gear the way it should. And now I'm setting it to full throttle. When I turn the timing tower so that the stop is against the block, we can look in and we can see now that each butterfly is substantially level. They do not need to be 100% exact. It won't really make much difference because the venturi is smaller than the butterfly. Now, if you need to adjust that, this ball link is what you use to adjust the throw. Now, understand that at idle, which would be back here, the idle stop screw controls where idle stops, and at idle this line on the cam may not necessarily be tangent, and in most cases it probably won't be tangent to the roller on the bottom carb. It will probably be slightly below it, as you can see here. Again, this is the idle stop screw that needs to be adjusted on the water. This engine hasn't been run, so it's not adjusted. So, and therefore everything is at 0. Okay, finally, we need to adjust the timing. And what we do here is we set the flywheel at top dead center. You can see the decal is gone, but there's still a line here on the flywheel for TDC. This engine did not have a block pointer, and the decal was gone, so I figured out these numbers by myself. But on a distributor engine, the curved line of the distributor pulley should match the curve of the flywheel, and the straight line should be pointing straight in. So now we'll try and find top dead center. What we do is we take the flywheel and we turn it by hand. We insert a screwdriver into the top spark plug hole, and we turn the flywheel by hand until we feel the screwdriver stop moving out and we feel the little looseness, so to speak, of top dead center. Here you need to rock it back and forth, and you'll feel it'll kind of pulse right around top dead center. So that feels about right. Note that you never turn the flywheel the wrong way. You always turn it clockwise, because turning it the wrong way can damage the impeller in the water pump. Okay, now we have top dead center, and which is right there, and we need to time the engine. Now, these particular engines with distributors do not need any sort of timing tool or timing light. You can time them static in the driveway. And again, what we do is we put it in gear, and we put it in full wide open throttle. As such. Now, this one won't stay. It's easier to do this when the engine is hooked up to the controls. You remove all the spark plugs and ground them so the engine cannot start. Now, with the ignition on, you turn the flywheel by hand slowly until you get spark on the top spark plug. Now let's pretend that it sparked. Now once you get the spark on the plug, you rock the flywheel slightly back and forth to find the exact center where the spark fires, and then leave it there. And then you take the distributor belt and you press on it a couple of times, and each time you press, you should get a spark on the top cylinder. And that's pretty much how these engines are timed. Then going over to a Prestolite type ignition. This engine's a bit taller. You can see that this engine has a block pointer. And it's a miserable witch to turn over. Not only does it have a block pointer, but it has marks on the flywheel to give you That's why the 150s are so difficult to crank over even with the battery. Okay. These three marks on the flywheel are 30 degrees for the mark that is down, 28 degrees, and 32 degrees. And of course this is 0. Now you put a timing light on this, and you remove and ground all the plugs so that they will not fire, and the engine will not run. And you crank the engine over. with a timing light connected to the number 1 spark plug wire. As you crank it over in full wide open throttle, you should again see the timing light firing on this mark. It should line up with the block pointer. If it does not, this is the adjustment, the 2 plastic blocks, and again screwing them in closer together retards the timing because it moves the trigger this way, and moving them further apart advances the timing because it moves the trigger into flywheel rotation. Going back to the little distributor, which I neglected to mention, if you need to change the timing on the distributor, there's the same 2 blocks on the tower. It's slightly different, but this distributor engine, timing can be changed running if you need to. However, on the press-to-light ignition engines, because it's so close to the flywheel, and because you don't want to join the 9-finger club, you turn the engine off, reset this link half a turn or so at a time, and then start the engine again, or crank the engine again, and check the timing. And that's pretty much it. Carburetors here are adjusted the same way. The only difference that you have is that this particular cam has 2 lines. Now this one is adjusted for idle, and you can see the 2 lines are below the tangent mark of the roller. But when you adjust this to 0, those 2 lines, the tangent mark will be between them. And that is pretty much it.